This is the foldable for section 8.3. Special right triangles. There's two special type of triangles, a 45-45-90 and a 30-60-90. For these triangles, what we're doing is setting up a ratio where we know that the two sides for 45-45-90 are the same. We're going to have to multiply the leg with 2, the square root of 2. So we take the leg, and we're going to multiply the square root of 2 to get the hypotenuse. This base right here is going to take some time to prove this to you. And since this is for the internet as well, so I'm going to prove it. What we're going to do is say that if a squared is n, because we don't know its value, squared plus the other n squared is equal to c squared. That makes 2n squared is equal to c squared. And then we're going to do the square root of both sides. Don't forget that this squared and the square root are inverse operations, so now we have c. And we can separate this out that we have 2, the square root of 2, and the square root of n squared. Once again, these are inverse operations, so that's why we have n, that became this. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is equal to c. Well, what does that mean? That means that when you're given a leg and you want to find out the hypotenuse, all you have to do is take the leg and multiply. This is the short leg. So it says that the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. And that is your answer. The hypotenuse is the short leg times 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and that is your final answer. This is the hypotenuse, so to get the short leg is the hypotenuse divided by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So how did I know that the hypotenuse needs to be divided by 2 to get the short leg? When you're given the hypotenuse and you want the short leg, you're going to divide by 2. Now that you have the short leg, the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. So now you have the long leg. To get the short leg is the long leg divided by the square root of 3. Those end up canceling out. You have x is equal to 4. So let's try it again. The long leg divided by the square root of 3. How did I know? You go to the long leg. You have to divide by the square root of 3 to get the short leg. Now the hypotenuse is the short leg times 2. Y is equal to 8. Remember, in your homework and on your test, I'm only going to give you 2 angles, and you're supposed to know that this is a 30, 60, 90. Here they give me the hypotenuse, and I have to solve for the short leg first. So the short leg is the hypotenuse divided by 2, which gives you the decimal 6.5. Now to get the long leg, you take the short leg, so y is the short leg, 6.5, times the square root of 3. And I'm not going to ask you to simplify that, and I'm not going to ask you to give me the decimal approximation. In our class, this would be the okay answer. On here we have the long leg. To get the short leg is the long leg divided by the square root of 3. In our class, this would be a good enough answer. For algebra 2, we would have to multiply by 1. Oops. And you choose the denominator. The square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which equals 3. And then the numerator is 2 square root of 15 divided by the 3. If you feel like you are able to do this, please do this. All right, this one's the short leg. The short leg, to get the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3. Make sure you multiply these together. 3 is times the square root of 6 is the long leg. For the hypotenuse, we take the short leg, so the hypotenuse is the short leg times 2. So how would you do this? You need to multiply these two together because these are the ones that are outside of the radical. X is equal to 6. Square root of 2 is your answer.